All right, I'll do an intro for us because I'm gonna assert my executive producer claim here. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Jerry
But
Bruckheimer.
yeah, absolutely, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Thanks for joining your two gremlins of the hour. I'm L. Brian, joined by handsome Adam. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. We got a chance to talk about Halloween movies, and that's always a good start for me.
And now I'm gonna do it. We're gonna talk about OCW.
Oh, damn it. Do we have to?
So, yeah, no, we do. Adam, as the stud that he is, obviously has an outline for us. Well, for himself, really, because I'm a fucking agent of chaos. So, because you told my squirrel brain to go and look at Ask Podcast questions, I want to start off with John Carter asked best rookie runs in OCW. And just because I am a gremlin, I have to address Jamie saying lots of people will confuse runs with overall tenure, and it's just like, how dare you, sir? Because I think we know rookie runs. I'm not going to compare, like, you have Samson's rookie run of like 100 years compared to, you know, like a Ty Sparks of like like a year, maybe year and a half.
Ty Sparks seems like he was a rookie for a very long time.
Yeah. So, Adam, let's have you start with that. Who do you think had the best rookie run, or list off the best rookie runs that you can remember or know of?
I think I have to start with Doc Green. Like, is there any better answer? But I'm gonna go past that. You know what? Forget that. I'm not gonna say that one because that's just the easy slam dunk one, right? So let's avoid
Fair.
that one. I'm gonna go with Jackson Montgomery.
Okay.
See, now I'm going to go with him because this one happened a while ago and he fell off really hard. But his initial rookie run of like when Turmoil first got made for the PlayStation division, that hierarchy that was being created was very much up in the air. And he was kind of the person that took full advantage of that situation. Like he became part of like that turmoil of five, and he really stood out. And I really liked his rookie run because he was a different character than what was at the OCW landscape at that time. So I'm going to go with Jackson Montgomery. Definitely somebody that's like redneck, fighting for the title, really defining himself as a clear-cut standout on the early Turmoil shows. So that's got to be like the first one that jumps to my mind. Do you have one that jumps immediately to mind?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people this might be a contentious one, but I think Rachel Lachlan is the one that right now for her rookie run, like you're talking about best rookie runs, like she quite literally sped ran to Lucian. Like I think she probably had the quickest time from joining and getting onto the shows to getting onto Resolution. Like I don't even think she was here for 3 months. Like she came in right place, right time, right opportunity, and everyone's allowed their opinions and can feel how they feel. But I think at a certain point, if the cards fall your way and you're able to benefit from it, that's what she did. And then another one, which I don't know if you were here for it, but Paul Boulay. I think Paul Boulay probably also has probably one of the best rookie runs because I don't know if he debuted into a title match. I'm almost 85% sure he did, and he won. Like the guy was probably the quickest rookie champion of all time, if not of the current OCW modern era.
Right. I was here for some of that. I don't actually know if he was a rookie during the time that I saw him because I wasn't aware of any promotions during that time frame in general.
Yeah, I don't think he even got promoted.
Okay, so he was still a rookie when I saw him, which would mean that I was here to see it. And I remember really liking the Paul Boulay character, and that character just kind of fizzled out. So
yeah,
that's a pity. Like if Court does listen to this, and I've talked with Court before, we've talked quite a bit. I miss your character. I miss you in general, actually, Angus. So please come back.
Yeah, I definitely think OCW could benefit from. You know, I don't want to speculate on why. Maybe, I mean, at the end of the day, the game for certain people just isn't enjoyable. But I think his creativity, especially in written sense, is something that right now I think would really benefit OCW. I feel like there isn't as many strong present writers as there used to be. Obviously, you know, OCW was very text heavy for about 80% of its existence. And, you know, Court was definitely in my top 3 writers of all time.
Okay. What other questions we got? Anything else that
Oh,
popped up?
yes. Trey Golden, through this mess of non-podcast questions because these people are animals. Trey Golden says, what separates what makes or breaks good stables?
I responded to him. I told him I don't know because I have never run a successful stable. I've tried. Well, actually, I've only tried once. It wasn't successful. It was relatively short-lived. So I'm not the person to ask for a successful stable. I have my views from the outside, and that usually just comes back to consistency and trying to not reinvent the wheel. Like chances are you've probably seen something that you want to utilize, but trying to make it unique to yourself and to the OCW landscape as well. Not taking too many people and bringing them in and creating more of a narrow focus upon, let's say 3, maybe 4 people. Don't go too much farther than that. That's the initial thought that comes to my mind. But I wasn't successful at running a stable, so I gotta leave that one to you.
I don't think, I mean, I think it just depends on what type of stable you're doing. Like, Sanctum, there was no single leader. Like, that was very much a really cohesive collaboration between me, Sheldon, and Owen. I think even outside of that, from, you know, being in Sanctum, I think what makes or break a good stable is having that cohesion between, you know, the handlers and the actual characters. I feel like if you're a stable with a mishmash of people in it that really don't have a collective mission or a solid, you know, statement of what you're going to do and who the stable is, I think that really murkies the water on what is really going on with your stable. Instead, it doesn't seem like a team. It just seems like, you know, a league of unextraordinary gentlemen, you know, being together, doing what they got to do. So
Right.
those would be my 2 things. Obviously, you know, like you said, the effort and whatnot, but I think that just goes into the cohesion, because it's like if you're all one unit and, you know, you have one solid end game. Like, for example, there was at one point where the main premise of Sanctum was to have the Golden Prophecy, because I'm sure you remember at that time, you know, there were quite a few stables kind of floating around back then, and not all of them could have all of their members with championship gold, and that is something that Sanctum did achieve. So just, you know, having that objective and cohesion between your stablemates. But I wouldn't,
Right.
you know, I wouldn't have the answer. Like, I never ran a stable as like the, you know, the head, like a leader, where it's like, oh, okay, this is the leader and the underlings. But
Well, there's not too many successful stables. Obviously, there are successful stables in OCW history. But the reality is you could list off many attempted stables, and see that many of them do fail. And this kind of like circles back to the thing we talked about last week. You got to be enjoyable to work with. Like,
right.
you have to be somebody who's willing to hear ideas. And sometimes you have to be willing to say, okay, my idea isn't particularly great. Like, we have to roll with yours. There has to be some sort of compromise that takes place, and that's, you know, that's part of OCW in general. You got to be willing to, you know, be flexible as new things come your way.
Understood.
All right. Anything else in there? There's a lot of shit in there, but
There was, yeah, no, there was a lot of nonsense, but no, I'm pretty sure that is going to be it. Trey, I'm sorry if what I said on the last podcast hurt your feelings. I will try to avoid throwing any shade to anybody, but I will actively work on that. So I do apologize as I'm looking through these. So now to the actual conversations of the podcast and the Let's Talk
Right.
OCW that my wonderful co-host Adam wrote. So you lead the way on that, handsome.
Well, I only wrote it because you won't write. I have to remind you
not.
to like put stuff in and so that my mind can comprehend
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to talk about. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to lead with favorite characters, and this can be modern or this can be all time. And I've done one modern person right now that I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite character because my favorite character is typically traditionally usually Rex. Like there's something that's really unique about him that I really love. So I'm not going to say him. I'm actually going to take a look at two people, one current and one person from like all time. Right now, as of right now, and it kind of pains me to say this, but Jordan Trance is a character that definitely stands out to me. Somebody that I really enjoy. Like I kind of look to see what they're doing. I'm still giggling about the work that they did not too long ago where he was laying on the ground and he just laid there for a
so
long
good.
time. I'm just hilarious. And I also think that like he is evidence, he is proof that you don't need to be particularly good at like video production, right? You don't need to be particularly good at video production. You have to be able to tell a compelling, fun story that people want to see because he's, his videos aren't anything that truly stand out, but they're fun and they're enjoyable and they serve their purpose. Mm-hmm. So, him winning the tag team titles with John Carter and then I didn't like the attires. Like that's one of the things I did not like. Like I really don't like overabundance of the cosplay kind of fun stuff, I guess, with that, which is, kind of critical and super silly of me to say, considering that I just said his stuff is fun. But the attires, those were probably my least favorite thing about it. And I did enjoy watching him become this odd couple team and like him somehow getting John John Carter cheered. That's really impressive, and that stands out to me as something that proves how successful the character has been. Slimy heel, now that he is going against Horse and stuff, was one of those things. Like where he has transitioned to, kind of like what's his nickname that he's trying to go for? This Deathmatch Messiah or something like that.
Yeah, but he has that, and then scapegoat. Right.
I like the scapegoat thing more, but the Deathmatch Messiah thing has been an enjoyable, it has been enjoyable to watch. So definitely for me right now, Jordan Trance is someone that's standing out, and I really like go out of my way to make sure I'm catching what's happening with him, and there are some storylines that you just follow with a lot more intrigue, and his is one of them. So the other person that, and this is the all-time, so that was the current person right now. But my all-time favorite character is probably not surprising for anybody that's like interacted with me or talked with me. It's Mugen. Mugen is my all-time favorite character, and a lot of it has to do with when I started to become active in OCW. Mugen and Drago had this really, really epic feud, and it went for a really long time. And if you talk to Drago's going to say, without Mugen, my career doesn't exist. And he says that because he's somebody like that bounces the ideas off of him, and he's always like trying to outdo it. He's trying to be crazy and be silly with it. There have been times where it's gotten to be too much for me, like the P3 segments. Those got to be too much for me, and I was vocal about it. I'm like, I'm not really digging what you guys are doing. But back in 2016, I'm pretty sure it was the NA title match at the Clash 2016. Like I would have to double check, but they had a match at the Clash. There was a rematch at Riot 420, and then the Resolution 14 versus Overlord Mugen. That was for me. Coming in new and watching those two interact with each other, that was the solidifying, this is what a feud should look like. This is how characters should interact with each other. So definitely for me, all-time Mugen. and current day is Jordan Trance. And there's so many different characters that I could name, but ultimately I could be here forever, so I'm just going to narrow it down to those two. What about you?
I'm definitely going to throw you through a loop because for all time I wrote people that I'm not going to even bring up. But probably like right now, currently, Max Edwards, before he took the sabbatical, I have always loved Max Edwards from when he was first finding himself to especially now. Like his feud with Joshua Tucker, where he just entrapped Joshua Tucker, and seeing the evolution of Max Edwards kind of becoming this anomaly in OCW where he, I think people at certain times will think of this as an insult, but like Max is just, you can put him anywhere and he will make it go from, all right, to I'm going to watch this. I'm going to be invested in it. Like, I brought up the Joshua Tucker feud, and it's like Joshua Tucker at that time, while I like Joshua Tucker, that dude was always such a kind guy, and good times. That's another dude I miss. Max elevated it. Like Max made people want Joshua Tucker, who at that time, like he wasn't really that good at the game. Like that was even 2K19, and like it was just probably not going to happen. And then even when Tucker, I think he made a little brief stint on 22, he still, was just here for the good times, not a long time. And just that, obviously, I have the personal connection with the Parka feud, but like his feud with Archer, how he does his segments, how he does his feuds, like the Harris Turner feud, that was another feud that just always, you just know, like I can just ring off Max Edwards feuds because I'm just like, this dude really just does not miss to me. Obviously another probably like slam dunk for the current time is going to be Deborah, like Deborah Soto, and Debbie D, Deborah Destruction, like her entire character from how she came in to where she's at now. It's just another nod to how, like with Max, like these handlers have evolved their characters over time to where there's the good, there's the bad, there's the ugly. And especially with Deborah, like her current women's world title reign, like as we're seeing it right now with this, this feud with Emp, that Deborah right now is very clearly being positioned as this huge baby face against this, authority figure who's just throwing her weight around and just is constantly winning as well. Like these are two women who just, they don't lose. They do not lose. And they both are right now probably at the highest of high for their momentums. And then once again, into the production side of things, both of them do not miss with their segments. Like the paying attention to small details with the backstage attacks and, the blood on the wrist and just the effort of going to having the police officers holding them back and having the character Jay being involved and figuring out to use the JAI voice, and Deborah, like the handler behind her, his hype packages. It's just, those are people that lead into the future of OCW, and anything they do, similar like how you look at with Jordan Trance, it's like I'm gonna pay attention for sure. Like I'm paying extra attention and getting invested.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is probably. Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No. Because I knew you were gonna say details. I knew you were gonna. I knew that was gonna happen. Like I'm not a details person, so for me, it's the theme. Mm-hmm. If the theme can stick with me long term, then I'm going to look back favorably upon it, and I'm going to look in general, like right now what's happening. The overarching theme is what means the most to me. I miss a lot of very small details, and there's plenty of people who probably hear that and they're like, well, that's not very fair. Like not too long ago, somebody got upset because a detail was missed. But I'm somebody that also believes if you're going to say it once, you should say it 3 or 4 times to really pound home the message that you're being delivered. And for me, that's the big thing. Like if a segment doesn't work or something doesn't click or you left a detail and it gets missed in something, that is to me not a very big deal. I think there's plenty of details that I miss. But if the overarching story, if the main theme boiled down to a simple sentence can be recalled, then it's successful for me. For example, I don't recall all the details. Like Parka said when I'm talking about Max and Parka now, I don't recall what it is that Parka claimed that Max was doing the same of and getting cheered for. I don't recall that at all. I don't remember what the details were. But I do remember the overarching theme of it, and therefore I can remember Parka felt like this wasn't fair because Max was getting away with the same things that, that Parka wasn't getting away with. So that overarching message is more important to me than those small details because I don't really remember those details for a very long time. So I don't know. You sound like somebody who's much more nuanced in your viewpoint on feuds.
I like, excuse me. I like to look at it from a multiple things perspective. Like, I feel like it's just like that in general for me when I'm watching something. Like, I pay attention to like the continuity, and that's what really sticks with me. Like, if someone's bleeding and it's on their fist, and then there's another scene, and they're not bleeding or it's not on their fist, it's like, wow, yes, that might not hurt the segment to most people, but like to me, I was like, I like seeing things just stay together and being a cohesive, thing together. Whereas I think that's what gets lost with me at times on writing is I just think some of the writing that goes on now isn't as well put together. So segments and seeing how people manage to use the game in whatever ways they do, mind you, it's like, okay, I see what we're doing here, and I appreciate it.
Okay. And that's fair. Everybody's going to look at OCW differently. Everybody's going to take away from it in different ways. Me, I like the theme. Like, you're the details guy. I'm the overarching bigger picture, perhaps. You still might get to the bigger picture, but you're going to have more elements that help make it up. So maybe like the example is you're like a highly detailed painting. I'm a painting, the same concept. Like I see the same thing. It's just it's missing some of those smaller elements throughout the entire canvas. So, but by any means, that's your current.
Yes, that's my current. All right, so all time, I think anyone who's listening and has heard me even talk, I think they're expecting the slam dunk of Aries. But I was having a think the other day, and when I was looking back at what I wrote, I have Aries and Owen, and I think I have publicly championed both of them more than enough times. But someone that, when I look near and dear to my heart, it's Nate Mack. Oh. I fucking love Nate Mack. I think Nate Mack is one of the best characters OCW has ever had. Mack, with how he cuts his promos, with how meticulous he is with his attires, with how he does things, and with his moveset, and with how he does his feuds, and just, I love this guy. And dude, like last year, I'm almost sure, yeah, it was definitely last year when Mack beat Tony for the international championship. I remember FaceTiming him screaming with excitement. Like, if anyone who is listening remembers when Rust Cole won the OCW World Championship at Summerside against H2O, when I freaked the fuck out in voice chat, my reaction to Mack made that look like I was talking normally right now. I could not stop screaming with how overfull of joy I was for him. I think that character is just, he's absolutely one of my favorite of all time because, so like I said with Max, you can fit Nate Mack anywhere. Like, I never would have thought I would have been a Cold Front fan, but brother, after like the match itself might have been to me, but the Tron, the name, the characters, and how they like organically mesh, you sold me. We've seen him as international champ, and I can see Nate Mack feuding for a world title easy peasy, no matter what. So it's like this guy is just another example of being able to fit anywhere. Like his feud, while I wanted it to stop and end, and I've been vocal on this with Marissa, I think that's another testament to how both of them, like, they keep doing these segments. I'm like, oh shit, you got me in again. Like, okay, you got me. And it's like, give me more. I need Nate Mack to the moon.
Okay. All right. Do you want? All right. Here's who Nate Mack reminds me of right now, and I know that this is not a direct parallel, but he reminds me of Justin Jest-esque face overness right now. That's
for sure.
That's how I feel about him. Okay, he did fight for a world title though. He fought because I'm working on the history project and stuff.
Okay.
He did fight Rex back in 20. Yeah, Nate Mack fought Rex. I'm pretty sure. Is that not correct? Because I'm going off of memory here.
I don't think this is correct.
You don't think this is correct? I could have swore.
I don't think that's correct.
Okay. I could have swore that in a conversation I had with somebody that came up. It's not in the document, so right. I don't know officially, but I feel like I'll find out. That's going to be one of those definite questions. Maybe somebody can shed some light onto that. Maybe Nate can shed some light onto that. Anyways, okay. So you wrote this down to like throw me off the scent is essentially what you did. So
No, brother. I could talk to you about Aries for like 2 hours on how much I love that character. And same thing with Owen. I think those yet again are two of the best characters OCW has ever seen, especially Aries for overall. And then Owen before his abrupt, unfortunate stop. I think he was gearing up to another level with that international title feud with Sheldon. And then obviously his feud with Aries before that for the world championship was, you know, Owen in his level of detail from everything, from how he plans his stuff, you know. But no, I thought about it because I was like, people are probably going to expect me to say one of them. And then I was like, dude, Nate Mack, like.
Well, for me, like, I wasn't surprised about one of them, but I was surprised about Owen.
Right.
Now, there's two reasons why this probably has been like surprised that even you would say that. Is one, I wasn't here for some of the time that he was here, and I question like what level of longevity does that play in like somebody being all-time great. They have, in my mind, they have to be here for a substantial amount of time to even get into that all-time great status. So, you know, Mugen and Drago, who I mentioned, have been here a very long time. Aries, who you mentioned, has been here or had been here a very long time. Owen's character hadn't been here that long before his untimely departure, as you call it. So you must not like weigh longevity in the same way I do, or you must feel that his impact in the short span of time was very significant.
There it is. That is exactly it. It's his impact to me. You know, Owen, ever since he came in, I feel has always had a purpose. He has always had a mission to himself. And then obviously he molded around what he was doing at that current time in OCW. And I feel like there is an underappreciated level of what he knows and what he does. Like the feud with Aries, he made multiple callbacks to past feuds and past opponents of Aries. Like I'm pretty sure that was the match where he actually came out with the Nate jacket on and like nobody even reacted to that. And I think it's just Owen, I think something to his detriment, maybe to some people, is some of these marquee matches that he was a part of, he either didn't win or, you know, some of his high moments, he wasn't able to string them along through one circumstance or another, unfortunately. Like when he won the North American Championship from El Parca, that was a rather impactful match. You know, like a lot of people were not believing that he'd be able to win that, you know, and he did. He then went on to like he demolished Sheldon Tremblay in their international championship match. But then, of course, after both of those championship successes, he did, unfortunately lose them early on. So it's like he wasn't afforded the opportunity to be able to keep going on with this grander story with him as the champion. Whereas even his match against Aries, he was literally a hair away from becoming the world champion. Mm-hmm. And he always has, through losing, I still don't look at him as hurt. Like, when he lost to Aries, I'm not like, he can't go anywhere. It's like, nah, like, Aries survived him. It's like, mm-hmm. People survive Owen. Like, especially as he got more in tune with the game, both 19 and the current ones. It's like when he was early on and people had years worth of experience on him, yeah, sure, it is what it is. Like, he's a rookie, he's gonna lose, it happens. But it's like when he grew in the time he was here, it was phenomenal. Like, his Mark Reese feud was very good. He actually made, he made people want Mark Reese to still win, even though at that time Dark Reese was a thing, but no one wants to admit it.
Okay. So this is where you and I have a disconnect. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with the aesthetics or the promos or the feuds. But for me, there has to be a time when the big win needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And where you have to cement your status. Mm-hmm. Like, there has to be a moment for that. Because if there's not, I feel like I'm looking back and I'm saying okay, so does Tony become as successful as he became if he doesn't beat me at Resolution? I don't know. But it certainly propelled him to the next level. And is it as impactful if Tony beats me and then loses right away after that? And I understand we're a hybrid lead. Like, I really do get it. People have to enjoy playing you, and you have to be able to tell compelling stories, and you have to be somebody who can craft a compelling story and also a good match. But there has to be a level of, for me, that's where the longevity comes in, right? Because if you're around long enough and you cement your status and people look back into the past and say, oh shit, Cassidy Hayes was the champion for over 300 days. Oh shit, Quartz was the champion multiple times for over 200 days. Like, to me, that's where I start thinking old-time status. Like, the ability to maintain over a long period of time. Maybe it's consistency. I don't actually know what the right word would be for something like that. But does that make sense? Do you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying, or am I explaining this poorly?
No, I definitely get where you're coming from. For me, right, me personally, it's just, I think I also look at it from a very skewed lens where I do kind of like, I mean, hey man, like I was there, like when you're looking back at the past games, right? Like from 2K19 back to what we're doing now, I just feel like it is such a different game to what we were playing to back then. Like, I feel back then when you got to the level of an elite player, regardless of who wants to admit they were good or not, or whatever the hell people want to talk about one another, when you got to the point on 2K19 and probably 2K18, 2K17, I didn't play either of those, but when you got to the point where you were good enough, you were almost, if you were able to play the game and do certain things, you were able to win a match anytime you really wanted. Whereas I feel now with these current games, it's more of a crapshoot. Like, I think we've seen it on all ends of the spectrum where someone can get their absolute shit kicked in and you can still make the comeback and win. You can get your shit absolutely kicked in and squashed. You can get your shit kicked in and someone can kick your shit in after. So I feel like the game is more volatile in results for matches. Whereas I think that honestly kind of tied into maybe like one of your older talking points is, like championship reigns aren't as, longer or have as many title defenses lately in these games. But I get where you're coming from, but I just think with the generation of players that we're getting within OCW right now, it's like I don't who even knows if any of them played 2K19 or those older games online, because I feel like, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that it's completely different loading up a random click play match or playing against your friends when you're playing in a competitive league with a rule set and, you know, a lot of structure and rules behind it.
Well, even if you're just loading up to play the game within the DM, it's very different. Like when you're actually in a match, and
Mhm.
Bash will tell you that. Bash and I had been DMing regularly for a very long time now before our match took place, and he was kicking my shit pretty badly. But it's very different when like okay, now there's a little bit of pressure on you. You know, there might be tricks up somebody's sleeve, like he's been kind of waiting for these moments to come to you, but there really isn't that many places to hide those tricks anymore. Like the 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 threshold for being elite or being good at the game. Let's just go with being good at the game because I don't really know what elite is on this game.
Totally
Um,
fair.
the threshold for being good at this game is much lower. Like it doesn't take much to be good, but that also means that it's very easy to fall out of whatever category is above that. I don't know if that's great. I don't know if you go to elite next, but I agree with you. And that's what makes, and circling back to somebody you mentioned, that's what makes Deborah's reign even more impressive.
Hmm.
Like the fact that she has held on to the title for so long and is about to tie, well, maybe not. I don't know. Like I'm going to say maybe could tie the world title defense record at 10 is a testament to maybe a few different things. Maybe luck, maybe skill, maybe just composure. Could be so many different things. But I think that makes Deborah's reign even more impressive with how. Oh, what was the word you used? You volatile. That's a good word for these games. These games are really volatile. I do agree with you on that one. So I get what you're saying about the new generation coming in and then trying to find their role within this game and success within this game. I think it's more difficult nowadays
Oh,
to
yes.
find success in this game, um, which by default means it's more difficult to find success within OCW. Although how you define success in OCW is very very varied by so many different people. So,
Oh, yeah.
but anyways, so I think that kind of leads naturally to the next one. I'm gonna let you go first with this one.
Hmm.
Um, actually, did you even think of a favorite current storyline, or did you kind of blur that in with Deborah's reign? Is that like
Um,
did I miss that?
no, no, you didn't. I didn't really want to comment
Okay,
on favorite current storyline, but like if you wanted me to give one, I could give you one after you did yours.
okay. So I'll just name mine right now, and right now the overarching story that I like the most is Emp's abuse of power.
Hmm.
Um, I think the reason why I like it so much is because I'm looking forward to the downfall so much. Um, I'm. You ever watch the movie where it's a terrible character and you just want to see them get their comeuppance so very badly?
Yes.
That's this. Like I'm really looking forward to when the House of Cards falls or when everybody gets even with Emp because Emp's abuse of power has affected so many characters at this point, and the idea that it could affect Deborah is one of those like, oh my god, I really want this person to get what's coming to them. I really want them to get what's deserved, and obviously, the role they played in Heather and sending her away for good, and her putting Cass back into the CCW title is like when 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 it all comes crashing down for Emp and when Jay breaks free, I think it's just gonna be such a feel good moment. Like, oh my god, thank God that this is finally happening. So for me, that's why this story right now is my favorite because I feel like, well, of course it could turn wrong. Like if there is no payoff, it's gonna feel very blue balled. Um, but that's why Emp's abuse of power right now stands out to me as my favorite feud. And although I don't think it would be called a feud, storyline. Like that's
Yeah.
my favorite storyline right now because she's had multiple feuds within it. but there's so many people that she's wronged. I'm looking forward to watching the fall take place because it's gonna be like if it plays out the way that I would hope of in my mind, it's gonna be a very significant fall. Like it's gonna be nasty. So that's why I'm really digging this storyline the most right now. See, now I had like put aside more time to talk about, but I'm really curious to hear what yours is because it gives me a chance to like kind of compare where you're at and in your thought process with it to where I'm at with this one.
Oh, well, I think you definitely are favoring one that has a lot more history behind it. The one that comes to me is Claudio Stardom coming back, like the regaining of the tribal cheeks. I have been very vocal. I was not a fan of everything that happened with Claudio Stardom when at one point I think he was the absolute hottest heel in OCW. That international title reign was phenomenal. I think even after he lost it to Tony, like that didn't even hurt him. He could have absolutely went right into a world title scene, but what happened. And I think with how Claudio has played it out at, as Claude Hall, like he tried being the good guy. He tried doing it the right way. He groveled, he swallowed his pride. He did what he had to do to get back within OCW. He did what he had to do to dealing with Cino and not laying hands on him and, just eating dirt after dirt after dirt. And then he finally gets the opportunity to break free and, to come back. And, he does the first match where I think that was the match where if he lost, he would become C-Note's obvious, servant, slave, whatever you want to use. And it was like, shit, which is like, okay, it's fine. Because like I mentioned, he had to deal with so much shit with C-Note, and C-Note was so nasty to him and awful. And then finally Lucian comes around and Jay's like, all right, dude, like, here you go. Here's your shot at redemption. Like, you're a wrestler again. Go have at him, kid. And then I think at a certain point, that is kind of where, our league does have these moments where it's just like, damn. Because the wrong guy, or the wrong guy, quote unquote, won, or the right guy lost. And it's like, it's all about how that person looks at that feud at the time. But I feel like that would have been tremendous for Claude if he would have beaten Cino and, kind of corrected those demons, made himself, make it worth it. But then he loses, and it's just like this frustration brewing in him as he's watching people join in and move up the ranks far quicker than he was and how he is right now. And it finally just snapping, and he's finally just targeting rookies and just, I love that he's getting booked in some of these matches against rookies where it's just like, beat the shit out of them and just remind them who they are and where they are. Because it's just, I love that. Like, I feel, and it'll go into one of my other topics, which I can't wait to talk to you about, is I feel like he is doing a heel the right way. Like, he is really being like, you're a shitty person, but it's like right now, it feels good to know, like, in a guilty way, like, yeah, I get it, but it's like, you can keep doing your thing, King. Keep doing you.
Okay. So that's actually not too different from why I like Emp's abuse of power. The only difference is you gotten to the point where there is some sort of resolution, right? But in a resolution that favors the character's development, right? Mm-hmm. So like Claudio got to the point where it's now, this has happened to me. I'm going to respond to it, right? I'm going to change from it, right? So you see the character change. That's a good thing, right? That plays into why I so much enjoy Emp's current storyline, because we've seen the results of her actions impact Tara and Heather and Nate Ortiz and Cass and Bingo and Rex and Tiberius Dupree and Jay. We've seen her impact all those, right?
Right.
But nothing's happened to her, right? So something's happened to Claudio. Like, there's been a development, there's been a change. there hasn't been anything like that. I'm not saying the amp hasn't changed. What I'm saying is there hasn't been that moment where there's this huge release, where there's this opportunity for fresh things to take place and new things to happen. And when Empress's story comes to a resolution, there's going to be so many characters that are going to change as a result of it. Jay's character, you would think, is going to go through a process of change, right? M's character is going to go through a process of change. Maybe Cass and Rex and Bingo and Drago, maybe all the people that were abused in the past, they go through a process of change. So I think that's a big reason why I also look so much forward to it. But you've gotten that. That's a big reason why you kind of like the storyline that you enjoy right now. You've seen a change take place and you like it. So that does lead in naturally to what you want to talk about. And I can see that you really want to talk about this. Like,
oh, so much.
Like if people don't know, like I put down like a timer. Like, this is how long we're gonna be on this. So, you know, reveal the secrets. So I'm gonna let you go to town on this. Like, have fun with this.
Well, I want your conversation in it too. I should have put both our names in total, because I think you will help keep this grounded to where I hopefully don't go off into offensive territory, because that's not what I want.
Okay. How about before that happens then?
Right.
One of the other things we were going to talk about was personal favorite storylines, and I put that in for myself.
Love that.
So why don't we touch upon that, and then we get to the big thing, okay? The big thing. So my personal favorite storyline is something I don't think you were around for. It was the B community versus the C community. And that was the feud between myself and Code Jackman. And what had happened is Code Jackman, I know people probably think, I'm not kidding when I say that Joe Deaver reminds me of Code, but Code was more successful at it. Like this kind of scummy personality and person overall, and kind of dirty. And he became obsessed with Bingo. Like, he became obsessed with Bingo. Like, he would follow him around. He was wearing his merchandise, and he was becoming a bit of a stalker, a bit creepy. And what happened is, like, Bingo rebuffed him. He's like, no, dude, you are not part of the B community. You are not part of this group. I'm sorry. So he went off and he formed his own community. He called it the C community. And he didn't tell me he was going to do this. I go to the show, and the next thing I know, he's wearing a C community shirt. And I didn't know this was going to happen. I'm laughing my ass off. And then he contacts me. He's like, are you in? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'm in. So then there was a series of matches, and we had a match at Devil's Night. I can't remember the year. And he won, and it was one of those, oh my god, I can't believe he won kind of moments, much like the Owen one you were talking about against you not too long ago. But what happened is I went for a bingo punch, and I missed the bingo punch, but the animations blended perfectly together, where I miss the bingo punch, and I get caught with the Jack-in-the-Box, which is the Faymacer, which, oddly enough, isn't that what Code Jackman uses as well?
I'm pretty sure Deaver does use that.
Oh, Deaver, sorry. So
that's okay. I knew you meant.
Yeah, so I missed the punch. I get caught perfectly in it. I put the controller down, like, I can't kick out of this. This was a beautiful moment. It happened. I was so happy to lose that match the way that I did. And then we continued with it, and we had these crappy videos, but the story was simplistic and easy to follow. And we then ended up having a 6-man tag match where Aries and Austin Lee were on my side, and we fought against the C community. So they were, we were like Invictus 3K or something like that, because Aries and Austin Lee and Jacob Trance were in a faction at one point. And Parka might have been. We don't know yet. Maybe. Kind of. I'm sorry. So we went against the C community, which was, oh my god, I'm blanking on the names. It was Code Mystico. Is it Mystico? No, not Mystico. God, what the hell was his name?
Was Damian Bourne in it?
Damian Bourne and so Damian Bourne and who was his lucha partner?
Yeah, that was Mystico.
That was Mystico? Okay, I was right. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we went into the 6-man tag match.
Was this the infamous 6-man tag match?
This is the infamous 6-man.
Okay. Perfect.
It was a tornado tag.
Oh, Christ.
And I love tornado tags. I really would love to have, if the game would actually allow it, I'd love to have trios titles. Like that would be so much fun for me. So what happened is in the match,
You're sick.
they were, yes, I am. They were, Damien and Mystico were always kind of shady-ish players in terms of like what they were want to get away with and what they were trying to get away with. There was this whole issue with Mystico like changing for a submission match, like he changed his stats or something, a moveset to better face. I'm pretty sure he went against Jamie for that too.
Yes, you did.
So what happened is they go into this match and they broke FPR to get Aries out. And Aries was mad. Like, we were in chat. I don't know if we were in voice chat together. And we probably were. But he was pissed. He was mad. And he's like, they broke FPR against me. And we kept going because I didn't see it. I don't know if it was like a hard FPR break or if it was some shady shit. I don't even remember anymore. And then they did it against Austin Lee too. They kind of got away with some shady shit, which was like kind of straddling the rules. And at this point, I'm pissed. I am irate. Like I'm watching this happen, and I was the one. We were all recording the matches. And I started swearing profusely over my mic. I'm like just screaming profanity, and it picked it up in my match. So we didn't realize that it was picked up in my match when we submitted. But I come back. I just go on an absolute tear. I was pissed, and I'm kicking the shit out of them, and I eliminate the three of them. So it was 3v1. I eliminate the three of them, and all the while I'm swearing left and right. I'm like, these motherfuckers, I can't believe they fucking did this. And Aries and Lee are going crazy, and they're just egging me on, making it worse. And we get to the end of it. I win the match, and I remember watching in the viewing party, and Jake tells me, so Adam, we caught your swearing in the match. I had to like edit it out a little bit there. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. But during the match, people were going crazy because they're like, oh my God, these people are being assholes. They're getting away with something they shouldn't be. And then I went on this absolute tear and won the match. And that like stands out to me. Just the community response to it, the way people were cheering. Dimsmore was in the chat and he says, well, I can't believe it. They're making me cheer for bingo now. And like everybody was cheering. We would then go on to have an absolutely stinker for the ending, and we ended, and I'm going to end right here because it was not a good match, but we had the House of Horrors match.
That just sounds like hell.
It was not a good match. I have been part of two of some of the worst matches in OCW history, and I'm pretty sure the House of Horrors match that we had stands out as one of the all-time terrible matches. So that's why it was my favorite storyline. A lot of highs, fun matches. Well, not fun. Like, obviously a stressful match. Fun moments. And, like, Code was a good person to bounce ideas off of. He's very receptive. So that went longer than I wanted to, but, like, you had me reminiscing. It was good time. It was fun time. So did you have a personal one you were going to throw out there, or do we want to get to the big topic?
He definitely just hit the make it about me fucking emoji super hard there. But
I did. What do you got?
Probably my personal favorite storyline. Nah, that's something too deep right now. I don't think I could just boil that down to one singular feud at this moment.
All right, you hold on to it then. Because we're gonna get to the next thing. This one's gonna be the big one here.
Yes.
Character alignment and how you feel there's an overabundance of heels and lack of meaningful faces right now. And here's what I want you to do. Okay. I want you to start with the lack of meaningful faces because
thank you.
I think it'll create this comparison, this contrast of, hey, there are like 47 active characters in OCW right now. Here are the ones I think are meaningful faces, and that might kind of give us a good starting point. So, what do you got?
No, I appreciate that because you're definitely reading my head there because that's where I was going to, want to lead off. But I think like right now in OCW of the current, now mind you, this is just me here, Brian. You don't agree with this, that's completely okay.
Okay.
I think out of the true meaningful faces that we have right now, Nate Mack, Mark Reese, Samson's getting there. God damn it, Samson. You're doing it to me. You're really doing it. You're getting there. And I know this might B17. I will reluctantly say you fuck you, but B17, John Carter and Sheldon are kind of they're kind of getting there. They're I will put them there because I feel like they are making their way to where I can absolutely do it. And then probably like that would be it.
Okay, so how many did you just name off there? It was not many.
No, what 7?
Okay. Now I threw out 47. I don't actually know if that's the number of active players here, but I don't know the like. I'm just gonna say the word the alts. Like I don't know who has alts and how many of them are active, how many people you would consider active, but I'm willing to bet the number is probably around there as an active roster. Mm-hmm. So 7 out of, let's say 50. 7 out of 50. It's a big gap. Why do you think that is? Like, how does this happen?
So, mind you, I also want to correlate just because I don't want people to think that I'm either forgetting or just not acknowledging it. I'm not talking about the women's division right now. I'm specifically just focusing in on the men's side of OCW. The women's division is an entirely podcast on its own, and I would love to have that conversation with you at another point in time. But what I think on why this happens is, I think a big factor, right, is I think it's easier, quote unquote easier, to be a heel. I think people look at being a heel and it's like, oh, I can be a bad guy. I can be, I can do these things that are more rougher, more edgier, that are, easier to get by. And I don't have to have the crowd buy into me, because I think that's another thing that is very hard for OCW is I think when it comes to buying into a babyface, I think that is an extremely rare occurrence where you start to hear the OCW community getting behind somebody universally as a babyface. I feel like a lot of times either people aren't voicing their opinion on them, or it's gonna be torn. Like someone in my current mind right now, and please don't take this as shots, I'm just using you as an example, but someone I've seen is like Bolek. How Bolek said, he could see himself being a babyface, but like right now, I could never see Alexander Bolek being a babyface. I think that would be over a year's worth of work to make Bolek be this believable, I want to give you sympathy type character. Whereas Petey Wheatstraw, I like Petey. I think Petey, honestly, you know what? No, let me even just take it away from the alts. Joe Deaver. I think if Joe Deaver did a few select things, he could be right fucking there. You could have Joe Deaver as a babyface that you are just like, yup. He could lose every goddamn match, and he could go into matches as this, believe in me, like I will do this. Like at some point I'll get there. Just like Chris Green, just like into another sense, Justin Jest for, I feel like you'll probably appreciate that as, older reference, since they all kind of fall in this area, just being the least in the sense of like he had a character, he did his fucking segments, but he couldn't always show up for the big matches. Getting those big wins was that one hurdle all of these characters at certain points in time cannot do, with other factors playing into them.
Okay, I don't want you to get away from Petey Weed either, because he is one of the characters I would point to as somebody in the future I could see as one of those people on your list. So don't feel a need to get away from that. I actually encourage you to talk about Petey, because I told Mad Dog this. Like, I like your Petey character the most out of all the other of anybody else right now. Like, that's definitely somebody I'd cheer for. So don't feel a need to get away from that. Like, Petey Weed is a good character, and I don't like. Okay, so I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I don't like. I'm apprehensive. Like, I look at him joining the Underground Elite, or the Underground.
Yes.
Underground Elite. So joining that, I look at that and I say, well, I don't think you needed to. I think you had a really good thing going on your own. So don't feel a need to get away from that. Keep going.
I feel the reason behind why I was stepping away from it is because in my mind I would have loved seeing Mad Dog be in this position. I think it's a happy coincidence that we got Cold Front with Nate Mack and Samson. But if I had my way, Cold Front would not be a thing. Respectfully, it would be Samson and Mad Dog going against DNS. It would be, I would have had it where like Mad Dog is like, damn, like I really fucked with Samson. Like me and Samson really threw down. Like we were tight with one another because they were more of like the quote unquote like normalish people. Obviously before Samson got wormed, but it's like they both seem alike in a lot of ways, and I would have liked to see Mad Dog in this babyface position, but obviously, everyone does their own thing. So, but yes, I love Petey. I think Petey someday can get to that point, but with the baby faces, it's just, I also feel it's very hard for certain people to be like, yeah, I'm down to do that. Like, it ties back in with how I said a heel. It's easier. It's just that thing where it's like, all right, I'm gonna go in and do this because it's just easier for me to get done. Whereas, it's not always the easiest to be a babyface. To be a good, compelling babyface, and I think that's a testament to Drago and Mark Reese. I feel like those are two guys that have consistently, unrelentingly been babyface their entire run of OCW.
Okay. So essentially you're saying that you feel when people are here they have more freedom to be creative. Like they feel like they have more avenues by which they can go down to tell a story. So I think I understand why you would say that. But I don't agree with it. I've always enjoyed, and I know like Jamie has said, well, Adam isn't really a face, like B17 isn't really a face. So I don't really like. Okay, sure, you can feel that way if you don't, but I definitely look to portray B17 as a face, and I find it to be significantly easier and less stressful. And that is one of the things that you didn't necessarily bring up, but I think needs to be talked about. It is less stressful to be a face, in my opinion, especially when people are trying to portray these like monster heel types. Like I hate, once again I say hate, I probably shouldn't say that. I dislike when people have monster heel characters when they're relatively new to OCW, because you're putting a lot of pressure on your character to win, and that's just not how OCW works. It's not scripted. Like you're gonna lose matches. It's gonna happen. So I get what you're saying, but I actually myself feel very much the opposite. I prefer portraying a face. To me, it's a lot easier to pull off. So you've done it. You struggled to become a face. Why do you think, like, which one do you prefer? Like, did you find that it was just too difficult to be a face with Parka, but you've also had other characters as well? Did you find it to be easier to portray as a face or as a heel?
Well, and I think the reason why I stopped trying to be a face as Parka is just because it was rejected. It wasn't going to happen. I don't think the audience was going to allow Parka to be a baby face. I prefer it. I loved what I was doing with Parka when I was trying to make him a baby face and trying to do the things to where it's like, all right, this guy has done some shitty stuff, but now it's like the other shoe's dropping. The shitty stuff is happening to him now. He's not he's not being the top of the top. He's losing, and he's dealing with emotional trauma and just instances that he is not able to get himself out of, or he is forced into. But I think on the other hand, either or can be easy to do or stressful depending on what you have in mind for the character. Because at first, I feel like the real turning point for Parka was the Max feud. It was at that point where I was like, all right, you're we can start this as graying the line and where we're going to be at, but has to be a definitive moment where, all right, you're going this route, I'm going this route. And I feel like the audience chose that they wanted to get behind Max. They wanted Max to be the guy. They didn't want El Parka. They didn't believe El Parka was a good person. They didn't think El Parka could change or could, be different after all the shitty stuff he had done. So it's like, all right, you want to doubt him. You want to doubt that character. Well, now he's just going to reinforce on it. He's going to dig his heels into the sand and be like, oh, yeah, you think I'm shitty, so I'm going to be shitty. And that's what we've seen ever since that,
okay.
But...
Okay. Well, isn't that what's supposed to happen, though? Like, isn't the audience supposed to drive who's a heel and who's a face? Like, shouldn't that be the main goal that you're after? Like, the face needs to be relatable, right? And they have to maintain likability, right? So if the audience, like, starts to accept you as a face, doesn't that make you a face? Like, i.e., somebody who's a tweener, and I'll ask you about that next. Somebody who's a tweener starts to get support from the audience, doesn't that make them a face by default? Isn't it the audience that's driving, like, your character's alignment, ultimately? So to me, it is. That's usually how I look at it. Like, oh, most of the people are supporting this character. They're behind this character. Face. Oh, most of the crowd, they take a unfavorable view upon them. They comment about the terrible things that they do, right?
Right.
So if the audience thinks you're a face versus a heel, like, that's how I've usually looked at it in the past, which might be way too simplistic. But I'm curious, what is your viewpoint on that? Like, you obviously had that happen and you changed appropriately. So, like, don't you have to gauge the crowd is overall. Like, that's just my opinion.
No, you're definitely correct at a certain point. It's like the crowd does, the audience and crowd does determine who is what to a degree, though. I think that's where the complexity of OCW comes into hand. It's like at the end of the day, we're all trying to be creative and we're all trying to tell our own stories in this, connected universe. So it's like, as me, the handler behind the character, it's like, okay, I had this vision and I want to do this vision, but that wasn't bought into. It wasn't, it did not garner the support that I was hoping for. And instead it was kind of like, nah, like take that back. Like, we're definitely not buying that. And, and it's like you said, I had to do the OCW pivot and try to become still again, but viewing it differently. And so it's just, I do agree the audience and the crowd does drive you to a certain point, but I also think from another aspect, once again, mind you, kind of like how I say I have a skewed perspective with matches, I feel like creatively and character-wise, it's more deep than just the audience. It's like, well, what is the handler trying to get done with this character? Like, where are they leading us? I know people hate the fucking saying, but I don't care. Get over it. It's like, let it play out. Let's see what we can do. Let's see where we can go, because it's like, who knows what we could do, like, get. Obviously, once again, I'm sure there's probably ample examples where, quote unquote, letting it play out has absolutely blown up in people's faces. But I mean,
well, let's use Bullock as an example. Like, I brought this up a few days ago before the most recent show came out, and he, 2 shows ago when he, went back to his, I don't want to say that word, but that is the word, his kidnapping ways. Mm-hmm. Like, I was making the argument, like, okay, I could totally see Bullock as a face. I could, 100%. I could see him coming out and, like, saying, I was wrong, and Bash was forcing me to do all these things. And then he goes into a feud against Bash. And Bash is the bad guy. And so, relative to him, Bullock's coming out and apologizing for his sins or whatever, he's saying, compared to Bash. That would be the start. And there would have to be more after that as well. Right? So, that's me forgetting the individual details. But what about this? What about this? What about this?
Mhm.
But wait. The overarching big thing is Bullock is repenting for it. He's facing off against the person who caused him to do these things, right? It's typical bad guy makes the good guy do something, blackmail, whatever it is. Goes on, like has that feud. After that feud, continues the repentance and comes out and says, "I am sorry. I'm a changed man." For me, that would have been enough. Now, unfortunately, he has gone and done what he's done, so there has to be additional things added on there to fix, and it's going to take a lot longer. But I don't feel too far removed, or I didn't, I should say, I didn't feel too far removed from seeing Bullock as a face because I wasn't going to get bogged down in the details that had happened in the past, even though it's a huge detail. It sounds terrible. This sounds absolutely terrible. But I could get behind him if he went against the person who caused him to do these bad things. And if that person that made him do the bad things was Bash, then it would be easier for me to let go of because I see Bash as a significant heel. Like, I see Bash as a big heel. Maybe not the biggest heel, but I see him as a big heel in OCW.
I think on the Bullock topic, I think it's a bit of a cop out. I strongly disagree with everything, just because it's kind of a disservice to what the character has done, and outside of the Bobby Chance feud, what he was done after that. You know, it's like Bullock has reminded us time and time and time and time again that he is a piece of shit, and that, you know, he is going to say whatever he wants to you to hurt your feelings. He is going to try and get under your skin and by any means possible. He is not beneath attacking you from behind. He is not beneath going to your loved ones. He is not beneath laying his hands on a woman or multiple women. And so it's just like, I feel like to try and just tack it on, Bash made me do it, sorry guys, when it's like, how I feel like right now where it's being laid out is more so if Bash is enabling a shitty behavior and Bullock is going along with it. And he is like, oh, fuck yeah, like, this dude is feeding into my every horrible tendency, but it's still like, you are still a garbage human being. You are doing that yourself. It's just because someone's enabling you doesn't mean you have to do it.
Okay, fair enough. So, Bash, if you heard that, you're a terrible father. You're a terrible role model. I knew it all along.
I hate that. I hate that entire conversation that you guys do, and I'm gonna get past that immediately.
Right, fair enough.
Someone who I think that you brought them up as well. By the way, quick little thing just for me and Adam here. You guys can pause. We're not going to get to the last topic. I just want to talk about this, and then when we finish this up, we can bring my last one.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, it's a school night. You know, we're already going good, but
I got you.
I think right now, someone who is emerging and showing us that they obviously can be a good baby face and is probably becoming one of the top baby faces overall in OCW is, of course, Valk.
Okay.
I think Valk has done an excellent job at showing weakness while also having moments where it's like just right, where it's like, okay, boom, you gave them their comeuppance, you're fighting back against the stuff that's happening against you. And someone on the flip side who is starting to, develop into a very good heel and really slot themselves into a very fluid position that they can fit anywhere is, like you said, Jordan Trance. I think Trance going from this kind of goofy, out of it, cosplayer with John Carter into this, I'm just going to be shitty to you and insult you and, just kind of be grimy type of guy. I like that because he is still feeling himself out. He's still, laying the groundwork for who, as we said, the deathmatch messiah is. But I also feel we have some people where their direction is, I'm just like, what are we doing?
Okay. So let's end like this. Let's say this. Let's fast forward. Oh God, what's the is 1 year enough? Yeah, let's go. Let's fast forward next year. Fast forward 1 year. Give me 5 characters that you would. Let's say, who would you want to be your top 5 meaningful faces? You gave me 7 earlier. Fast forward a year, who would you like to see at the top in terms of faces? Maybe this is somebody who's a heel. Maybe it's someone who finds themselves as a tweener. Maybe it's somebody who is already on your list. Who would you put? Is a year enough, or do you feel like I gotta say like even?
No, a year's okay. I think there's more than enough time where I can work with a year. Gabriel Vincent, Joe Deaver, Ines. I would love to see Ines Quartz back. I would also love to see what's his goddamn name? Amart. I would love to see Amart take that next leap up. And I would also love to see Luis Bishop as well.
All right. You left somebody off that I.
You're expecting Petey?
No, I was expecting Max.
I think Max is already there. Max is already that meaningful baby face that like Max comes back, and you know I don't think there is anybody right now that can make Max look like a heel. Okay. Currently in OCW, like the only way I could see someone making Max look like a heel if like Harris Turner returned and was like, dude, you were a scumbag.
All right. Well, hey, we got through a lot. We went through a lot. That was good.
that was big.
We have a lot. We actually have other things, but the great thing is we can push it off to the next one and be like, hey, look at this. We got something brand new. And some people have actually asked some more questions, but we're not going to answer those right now. So we're going to wrap it up. We've gone over a ton of stuff, a ton of information. I look forward to hearing what people have to say. Look, you brought us into this podcast, like you entered and did the intro. So I only feel it would be fitting that the executive producer has a chance to send it on our way tonight. So go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate everyone for listening. We always thank you for your time. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I'm sure there will probably be other instances where me and Adam have more time and we are going to, it'll be longer because, we like to reminisce. But thank you so much. Stay safe. Make sure you have a good week ahead of you, whenever this gets uploaded. And yeah, man, subscribe to OCW, like, comment, subscribe. I've been Brian. That's my man, Adam, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.